So I do see some familiar faces in here. It's good to talk to everybody today and be back in person at NCGIS. I was telling somebody, I think my first time here was '99, so been coming to this conference for a while. So we thought we'd just take this opportunity to sort of talk about our company and the services that we provide and the customers that we serve. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kent Rothrock, and for 24 years, I ran a company called Highland Mapping Incorporated. Again, I see some clients in here, so appreciate you guys showing up. We were primarily a managed services business, and again, Wendy and I are doing a presentation later on today talking about managed services in particular. But we did all sorts of work with all you great clients, mostly at local government level, but also for some other entities and jurisdictions. But supporting GIS implementation, supporting workflows, all sorts of project work, upgrades, migrations, so forth and so on, as well as data processing and programming and things like that. So as of a year ago, March 1st, Highland Mapping was acquired and merged with Avineon Incorporated. And I'm going to let Joel talk a little bit more about the particulars of Avineon and its history and so forth and so on. But Highland Mapping, our entire team went over to Avineon, and we became the foundation of what is now known as the Managed Services Division. So for the most part, we're continuing to do the same kind of work for the same customers as before. We've changed some things. We've implemented a ticketing system. We're trying to get more efficient and trying to, better serve our customers and just become a better version of ourselves. But we've also got a much bigger outreach. We're a global company. We have offices around the United States as well as Europe and India and the Middle East. So there's other things and other services we can provide as well now, in addition to the managed services work that Highland Mapping built its reputation on. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joel Campbell. So Joel Campbell is the Vice President of Commercial Systems and runs the North American operation, basically all our business in North America. And Wendy Peliquin, who's also with us, is our Business Development Manager and handles most of the sales on the East Coast. So both of these guys are great resources. I'm glad they're here with me at NCGIS in 2023. So I'll hand it over to Joel.
Kent Rothrock Star. You guys know him, right? Hi, I'm Joel. Let's start by wishing everyone a happy International Women's Day. Ladies, thank you very much. Celebrate you. I'm happy to be here. As Kent mentioned, last year we acquired Highland Mapping and added them to our family. They were our fourth acquisition in about 3 years. And we were very excited to get them and have them become a part of the team. I've spent an inordinate amount of my life in North Carolina over the past 12 months, but it's been a lot of fun hanging out with Kent, hanging out with the team, and meeting a lot of customers. I'm just going to use a couple of slides just for, simplicity and talking points. You guys, please interrupt me, ask any questions you want. Tell me how bad Kent is. Tell me what we can do to help. This is pretty informal, and I don't want to sort of preach to you. But as a little bit of background, Avineon is not a new thing. We're 31 years old as of February. Privately owned, family-run business, still run by the founder. We are in the process of, a multi-year generational change in leadership as the founder starts to look and passes it to the next generation of the family. Financially stable, debt-free, have never borrowed any money, been running the business, for the past 31 years, completely based on our ability to deliver. And we are an ESRI Gold partner. We're also what they call a cornerstone partner. So we've been around with them for a really long time. Sorry about that. And we are global in nature. We have offices around the world. Thanks to the acquisition, we now have an office in North Carolina in lovely Banner Elk. Love to have you come visit us. We've just expanded that office by about a third its size. Even though we haven't added that many people there, we are doing that in anticipation of adding some more. We have grown the team that does managed services since we made the acquisition, adding a few more people, hiring that were already in our organization, hiring a few people, et cetera. We also have offices that support my business in Traverse City, Michigan. Up there somewhere, if you know the mitten, right? Huh? That's geography. Well, the mitten, yeah. Actually, I was at a conference a couple weeks ago and a guy did an entire presentation on the mitten. He was from Michigan. He did an entire presentation on the mitten, and he had a picture of his hand, and he warped it to various pieces of map data and imagery and stuff. It was one of the best presentations I've seen in a long time. It's probably online. John Nelson is his name, cartographer at ESRI. If you ever can watch that, it's a really great presentation. But yep, up there somewhere in Traverse Bay up in northwestern Michigan, not on the upper peninsula, but on the lower peninsula. And then, of course, St. Petersburg. I said St. Petersburg. Did I say St. Petersburg? St. Petersburg, Florida, where we have a large concentration of people as well. Our headquarters are in Northern Virginia. There's no one on my team working in that office in Northern Virginia. We're all either in one of those three offices or scattered at our homes. But that is our headquarters office. And we also have offices in Canada, the UK, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, United Arab Emirates, et cetera, et cetera. So we truly are a global company. And despite all of that, we run between 900 and 1,000 people in our organization globally, depending on the particular state of business we're in at the moment. We do business, in three primary areas in the geospatial world: what we call data engineering, managed services, which Ken talked a little bit about, and then this thing we call digital modernization, which is kind of a catch-all for systems development, solutioning, et cetera, et cetera. Data engineering side, lots of 2D, lots of 3D, lots of parcel work, lots of utility line work, parcel fabric stuff, some 3D modeling, some BIM work, just about anything you can imagine we do. Impervious surface mapping, we do. Photo interpretation just about any time. We've got a long history of doing seagrass mapping down in Florida. So all kinds of data services. On the managed services, it's really focused on supporting the ArcGIS Enterprise server, ArcGIS Online portal, and doing sort of all the database administration around that, managing users, supporting staff that are standing up services or making sure services are working, automating some processes, providing all the upgrades and patches and things like that, and then just overall technical support. Sometimes this is just like staff support. Sometimes in some of our smaller customers, we are the GIS department, and we handle everything for them, and they have a coordinator that works for the city or the county that will reach out to us and say, hey, I need, and we just take care of it. So depending on what your needs are, we have a variety of offerings there. We have some fairly standard, well-defined offerings that we have put forth in the market. How many of you guys are actually customers of our managed services? So you're probably familiar. One of the things we did when we made the acquisition was sort of standardize things. This is what you get. This is what it costs you. And then what was the next thing we did? Ticketing. Well, yeah, I guess we did do the ticketing first, didn't we? We implemented an electronic ticketing system, so you didn't have to pick up the phone and call or try and find somebody. You can submit a ticket, and it gets triaged and assigned out to people. I thought you were going to say raise the prices, but we kind of did that a little bit too, but we're trying to slowly move everybody that's been a customer for a long time. Kent, being the rock star and nice guy that he was, didn't change prices for 17 years. And so we actually had a lot of customers going, are you ever going to raise the prices? Because they knew they were getting a really good deal. So we tried to be fair about it and move people sort of incrementally. But those are pretty well-defined sort of packages that you can acquire from us. We also have other ways to sort of build a managed services scope based on what it is you really need to have done. In some cases, that might be your parcel editing And we estimate how many parcels, whoa, I just got from our moderator. Application development, everything from the most simple little, let's build a web map, to the most complex, I need to build a end-to-end permitting system that works for dog catchers, that's geospatially focused, and that is used by people who are left-handed. And we can sort of take all those requirements and sort of understand and work with the customer, build a system that works. Lots of customers in lots of spaces, utilities, facilities, and infrastructure, sort of our core space, going back 31 years. But we also do a lot in parcel management, planning, zoning, economic development, in the commercial sector, in banking, in retail, in real estate, in restaurants. So a little bit of everything we get involved in. Nothing sort of frightens us. We do some federal work as well. Partner up with a lot of people, as mentioned, ESRI partner. We're also a partner with Safe Software, if you know FME. We have probably more certified FME professionals than any other company in the world. Oracle, Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the last slide I'll sort of throw up. It's kind of our mantra. There are 3 pillars of success: design, implement, and sustain. Most people in GIS don't think of things in these terms, but I like to talk to people think about building a house, right? You'd never go off and build a house without having a blueprint. And then once you build your house, you want to make sure you have all those preventative or routine maintenance things in place. Painting, changing the filters in the air conditioning system, whatever the case might be. That's sort of our design, implement, sustain. Let's get a good design, let's build a good blueprint. What's the system supposed to do? Then we'll build it. And then let's figure out how we're going to sustain it. How do we make sure the data stays up to date? How do we make sure we can upgrade and keep up with the latest in stuff that's coming from Esri or what have you? And what we find is a lot of our customers historically just go to the middle. They just go, well, I'm just going to implement this thing, without ever really thinking about what the design was, without ever thinking about how they're going to sustain it long term. So we like to think of all of our projects, no matter how big or small, in these 3 sort of pillars of how you implement a really solid system. Let's design it right to start with. Take a little time, really understand what we're doing it, look at all the nuance, make sure we understand all the stakeholders that are involved, make sure we understand all the outcomes we're looking for. Once we have a good design, the build is pretty easy. The implementation, we can, hire the right contractor, get the right plumber, the right electrician to come in and do their work. And then let's make sure that once that system is up and running, we know how to do the care and feeding of it and sustain it over the long term by keeping it updated with new innovations, by keeping the data fresh, whatever the case may be. This is sort of the way we look at the world, and one of the important things for us in what to think about when you're contemplating doing a GIS program or GIS project. And with that, before I get the hook from the moderator, I would be more than happy to open it up to questions or comments or feedback, with only one exception: no accolades about Kent, Rothrock, Star, please, because it just gets old. Questions? What do you think? Is he doing a good job? Customers? He's got a really good team. Those guys work really hard. And as I said, we've added some of our existing staff to his team, and we've started hiring new talent for his team. I can tell you strategically, one of the big reasons, there's 2 big reasons we were interested in making the acquisition. How many can tell I'm old? That's nice, thank you. I've been around for a long time. I've seen an awful lot of local governments where the first or original generation of people who ran their GIS are getting to that retirement age. And as they go off to play golf or fish or hunt or whatever it is they choose to do, it's really hard to replace them. It's really hard to find and keep people in lots of jurisdictions around the country. And so we see that as a big and growing opportunity for managed services, where we can come and help support. Maybe you used to have 3 people and now you can only have 1, but you still have the same amount of work to do. So managed service was a really big thing for us to sort of look at in the marketplace and say, this is a need, an unmet need in lots of parts of the country, lots of parts of my territory, and therefore I want to sort of jumpstart that and have the people, the processes, the systems in place to support those kinds of customers and grow it. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. We've probably added 30% more customers into our managed services group of customers since the acquisition, some of them outside of the traditional North Carolina Kent world, and we continue to grow that. The second real strategic reason I wanted it is because in our digital modernization business, where we're asking people to be really smart GIS analysts and GIS developers and GIS consultants, those guys are really hard to hire as well. And so the managed service business gives us an opportunity to bring in people, train them, let them work their way up, understand being exposed to lots of different things from lots of different customers, lots of different problems that they might encounter, different technologies, whether it's desktop or server or online or portal. And it gives us an ability to sort of build this capability within our company to sort of grow up the next generation of people who move into our digital modernization business and become consultants and developers and analysts. And that's what we're doing pretty effectively. Now, the hardest part of that is just like any sort of family that grows up, the kids, mama and dad never want to let go, right? So getting Kent to let go once the babies are ready to fly the nest is one of the hardest things, but we'll work on that together through counseling and, lots of hand-holding and some prayer, and we'll figure it out. Anyway. Questions? Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. On your first slide, you showed 3 areas of managed services, and you had about 900 people. Is that, how is that broken up as far as your staff? Do you have like 300, or your facilities, utilities, like 50%? Like what's the breakdown?
That's a really, really phenomenally good question. The 900 people, let's do the simple math. There was one sort of part of our business that's not on that list called engineering support services, where we do a lot of drafting for engineering firms, sort of traditional engineering type drawing in their engineering type systems that are not geographically aligned. That's probably about 200 people, so let's put them aside. About 450 people are in our data engineering practice that do, all the conversion, conflation, migration, editing, backlog posting, you name it. That's about 450 of the 700 remaining. So that leaves me 250 that are pretty much digital modernization people that sort of float around all kinds of projects. Our managed services business, which at the moment is limited to the United States, and the customers that we have is 7 people, 7 folks on our team. But again, that's only their 100% commitment. And when they run into a problem and go, oh, I need some help with this portal thing I've never run into before, those 7 don't have to solve it. There's a bench behind them that can help them solve that problem, right? That are working on implementing or building a new system for somebody or doing whatever. So I don't know exact numbers based on those 3 things, but I would say the data engineering thing, 450 is about the right number. The balance of people are really shortstops based on their skill level. And then the only other sort of hard number I'll give you is there's 7 people in the US today committed to our managed services customers who are working that ticket desk every day. Does that answer your question okay?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
gives me
Yeah.
Second question is the name. Is there any, I'm not sure.
Absolutely phenomenal question. Do you know the answer, Wendy? Do you know the answer? Okay. It's a great story. The owner named the company about 15 or something years ago, 15, 17, maybe even 20 years ago now, I've lost track. We made an acquisition. We sort of had a separation from a company we did business with that was likely like named, and so there was a need to change the name of the company. And the owner, who's an engineer, by the way, he's a marine architect. He went through this elaborate process of trying to figure out what the name was going to be, and he had a whole bunch of rules. Keeping in mind, this is like 20 years ago, right? So the first rule was he wanted it to be to start with an A, because in the phone book, the A's come first in the yellow pages, right? His second rule was he wanted it to be 7 letters, because all the research at the time, and if you think about pharmaceutical ads that you watch, I challenge you to do this tonight, almost all pharmaceutical names, which are just beyond bizarre, are 7 letters. Duplicent, or, they're all on TV every day, right? You see them. Watch them tonight and start counting letters, and you'll find that the majority of them have 7 letters. Why? This is some psychologist somewhere figured this out 30 years ago and said that's what people understand. I don't know, but he bought into it. So had to start with an A, had to be 7 letters. And then the third thing is he wanted it to be descriptive of what it is that we do. And he spent months trying to figure it out. He hired marketing firm consultants to try and help him figure it out. And in the end, he on his very own came up with Avineon, which is the advanced visualization of information into the future. Avineon. Avineon. Make sense? It's a good story. It's a true story, but it's a good story because at the time that's what we did. We did the advanced visualization of information, and he wanted to do that forever into the future, right? And if you think about GIS, that's a little bit what it is. It's advanced visualization of information. That's all it is. Yeah, it's geographic, but it's just, anyway. Great question. Fun answer. Watch TV tonight. Check out the ads for drugs. Let me know. Other questions? We are here all week. Kent and Wendy would love to speak to you. Those of you who didn't receive a formal invitation in the mail or in the email, we are co-hosting along with Rock Technologies a customer appreciation social tomorrow night. Everyone's welcome to come. It's from 6 to 8 o'clock, just across the street at a place called Small Batch Brewing. It's right on the corner when you walk out the door. And there'll be, little finger foods and an open bar and things of that nature. So please join us. We'd love to have you, and thank you for your business, whether you're a current customer or what I know will be a future customer.